Amen, amen. Glad to see all your guys' beautiful faces. Third Tuesday in a row. I think this is a record. I'm sure it is. So,
That's right.
oh man, hey,
We love you.
hey.
Great work.
I just thank God. I thank God for using me, and you know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get into that tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about. Well, actually, I'm going to talk a lot about my story, my journey. A lot of you guys don't know who I am.
Okay.
And what I came through, what I've done. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and I'm going to let God lead it.
Mm-hmm.
This is very uncomfortable for me to talk about, but I felt like this is where the direction that I needed to go today. So, a couple of people will not be here. Sister B is picking up Bishop from the airport, so she won't be here tonight.
Okay.
Pastor Linda is working, so she won't be here tonight.
Okay.
Michelle had something that she's tied up with, so she also won't be here tonight. So, so I don't take offense to empty seats. Y'all done seen and heard enough from me, but I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about who I am and where I came from. So this is mainly for the third row tonight, because I vividly remember being their age, and I vividly remember the mistakes that I made. So I'm just going to talk about that.
All right.
Tie in a little of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I'm going to get you guys out of here. So, so all of this still ties into where we're at in Luke. Okay.
All right.
So let's go back to Luke 5,
Okay.
verse 5.
Third row, got it?
Everyone have it?
New Testament.
It's in the New
Third.
Testament if y'all, yeah. Thank you, May.
Mm-hmm. And Simon answering said unto him, Master, we have toiled all the night.
Okay, so for those that are unfamiliar with this passage, we've been on it for a little bit. Bishop T.D. Jakes, his message from February is resounding. We're going to be on it for a while. This is when Jesus goes to Galilee, the Sea of Galilee, or Gennesaret. Excuse me, Gennesaret, which is one of the different names, depends on where you're at on the lake.
Right.
Okay, this is when he's teaching out of the ship, and he basically just walks on a ship and says, "Hey, push back from the shore. I want to talk to the crowd." Mm-hmm. You know, and so after he's done, he told them to lower their nets. Okay, lower their nets.
Right.
And now we have Simon in verse 5 giving a quick response. So he said, "Can you read that again?"
Yes. And Simon answering said unto him, Master, we have toiled all the night and have taken nothing.
He's giving excuses.
Nevertheless, at thy word, I will let down the net.
All right, thank you. Mm-hmm. So the key word there is nevertheless. Okay,
Yes.
Nevertheless.
Yes.
We all have situations in our lives that we can talk to God about. I've lost this person. I've done this. I've done that. I'm not worthy. You can't use me. Okay? Nevertheless. Nevertheless. So let me kind of walk you guys through my story. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the nevertheless and obedience. Okay? Mm-hmm. So third row, So guys, I moved to Nebraska in 1989. I came here at 3 years old, almost 4. And we moved in with my grandmother in North Omaha, and we stayed with her for a little bit. It was my mom, my dad, and me and my sister. And so we stayed here for a little bit, got introduced to a church that my grandma went to. And so that's where we started here. I never liked being in Nebraska ever. Even as a 3-year-old, I was just like, hey, we got to go. Like, I don't like this here. I had nothing, you know. I look at my family, my whole family's Nebraskans. My wife was born in Omaha. All the kids were born at Methodist. So, I mean, like, literally, whatever. I blame her. It's actually my wife's fault that I'm here. So if I'm angry, it's her fault. So, no, I appreciate my wife, and I love her to death, and I'm glad that God directed me here, kept us here.
That's
so
right.
I got a little bit to talk to you guys about. So moved here in 89. 1990, we moved over to Bellevue. My dad worked as a correctional officer, and I think my mom worked in retail at the time. I was so little, so young, but I remember certain elements of my life at that time. And we lived in a house right off of Golden Boulevard. And I don't know what transpired, but that was the first house, one memories I have in that house, where I remember my dad beating my mom. I remember sitting in my room, because my room was across the hall. So it was my room, my mom and dad's room, and then my sister's room. It's funny because in real estate, I actually got to walk through that house 2 years ago.
Wow.
So that was interesting. But that was my first moment remembering in my head, like, why is my mom crying? Why did this situation happen? And I put 2 and 2 together and, realized that my mom was being abused. I was little. My dad was huge. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, we had a fairly normal childhood besides that. Finally, they ended up getting a divorce. But he just was never like, it was weird. And really all that stuff was stemmed from his childhood. He was abused. My grandfather was an evil human being. He molested his daughters. He beat his son. My grandfather was an evil human being.
Jeez.
And he died at age 51. I'm like, God, you couldn't have taken him sooner. But
Wow.
he was awful. Awful. And that's what flows in my veins, right? So I got to think about that. Did some family history, and it wasn't just him. His siblings were the same way because of his father.
Oh, my God.
So my whole family on that side, the paternal side, has an issue with abuse. That was one thing that I made up in my mind, that I'll never walk down that path. I've never got close to laying hands on my wife. Me and my wife, we wrestle all the time, but we don't it never gets to that level. It'll never get to that level. That's something that I witnessed that no one else in my family, it ended with me. That's how I felt. And I thank God that I was never abused, right? My father didn't abuse us.
Yeah.
So, which is a huge step. So I thank God for that.
Yeah.
We were definitely protected growing up. Okay. But as a kid, I was I was innocent. I was goofy. I was fun. I loved having fun. I loved having a good time. I had a big smile, toothy grin, big funky teeth. I was just a big-headed boy, and I was just good-hearted. I remember caring about things.
Yeah.
I cried at the end of My Girl when I was a kid. No joke, cried. I was like, Macaulay Culkin ain't gonna make any more movies. Like, cried. At the Westroads, cried. People still make fun of me about that. I don't care, whatever. But that's how my heart was. That's how God made me.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's how God made me. But as time progressed, I got angrier. I got angry at the situation. Life didn't get easier when they separated. Life got a lot harder. We ended up moving into Bellevue Public Housing. So same thing as Omaha Public Housing, but in Bellevue, right? Mm-hmm. But we lived in this quadplex for, man, it felt like a long time, but I think it was only like 4 years. No, it was 92 to 98. So 6 years. Lived there for 6 years. And that's where a lot of my childhood memories are. I take my kids over there to this day. Okay, we actually went and donated to folks that live in those quads. Because I remember, right? I remember those moments. I remember when folks had to help us.
Yes.
So, so I lived over there, 28th and Franklin in Bellevue. Hood address, but I lived in Bellevue. And I did a lot of growing up there, and life was very difficult. I think we were only paying like $35 a month for rent. You know, my mom was a good person. She volunteered at the church. She drove the van. She drove it every Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday to pick up folks to come to Good News Bears or whatever, or just to come to church on Sunday. My mom was a great person. But she was stuck in her world and that in her trauma. Right? And so I witnessed that. And so that hardens you as a kid. And she had to put a calloused skin on to make sure that nothing else would hurt her the way that my father hurt her. And the situations hurt her. And even beyond that, she had issues stemming from her family and the things that they said about her. And then to compound that with now being with an abusive man, you all can see how that would, exponentially drive her to a point where, she would kind of, recluse up. Okay? So she internalized a lot of things in that area, or when we lived in that home. She battled endometriosis. We didn't know at the time how serious it was. Yeah. Could have lost her. Thank God we didn't. But, those are the things that we went through. And at the time as a kid, you don't understand the situation.
Right.
But there's times where, she worked at Walmart. She opened up one of the first Walmarts in Omaha. And there was times where she couldn't afford a babysitter, couldn't get a babysitter. So we had to go to work with her, sit in, I think it was called the Radio Grill back then, and wait for her to get off work. We had to sit there whole day. I'd, go to apparel, play in the racks or something, go to electronics for a little bit. But I had to be on my best behavior because my mom couldn't get in trouble. She couldn't lose that job.
Yeah.
She was trying to support 3 people with a $5 salary, $5 an hour, wage. So it was very difficult for us. We were very, very poor. Very, very poor. I mean, to the point where we couldn't even go skating. I mean, skating's cheap, right? Skating's super cheap. Couldn't go bowling. There's a lot of times we wanted to go bowling, we just didn't have the money. And I never understood. But my mom spent a lot of time at church, going to church, always in church, always in church. And you think to yourself, like, yo, if we were so broke, why don't you get another job, do something else? Just wasn't her thing. She trusted God. She always just wanted to trust God. And not to knock her or anything, but it didn't pay for bills. We suffered a lot. There were times where, utilities got shut off or we just didn't have food. She would give us something, and if she ate, she ate. It might be days where she wouldn't have anything to eat. Days. And so that's hard to watch, but as a kid, you just try your best to push through it. So in my mind, I did a lot of blocking it out. There's a lot of things that I forgot because I refuse to remember it. Because it's traumatic. It's traumatic. It's not something that felt good. And not till I got older did I realize that my outlook on life was based off of trauma, not just love, or not love in a sense, right? And so I look at things, events, and I think of it from a traumatic stance versus in love stance. And that's hard to come to that realization. It's tough. This isn't going to be a fun message tonight, by the way. I'm not.
All right.
So when I was about 10 years old, one day I was walking home from school, and I don't know what I was angry about, but I was just angry, and I just felt it just burning inside me. And I heard God tell me, or ask me, he goes, "What are you angry for?" Well, my life sucks. I watched my mom get beat. I mean, there was just so many things, right? Kind of like Simon, given all these excuses. And what I didn't realize at the time is that not only was God trying to quell or quench my anger, but even at a young age, he was teaching me how to hear his voice. He was teaching me how to respond to him. And so I learned early what his voice sounded like, and I misused it a lot. I misused right or wrong. Okay? So about that same time frame or whatever, I was always in church, but I don't think church ever had that impact on me. I was there, but I wasn't. Okay? I just wasn't. I was so engrossed in everything else. And that was about the time frame that the Bloods and Crips were coming to Omaha. I think it was 92, 93. I think they started coming in, infiltrating. So I wanted to be a gang member too. So I started reading up about gang members. And I eventually found some folks that I really wanted to be like. One person's name is Carlos Davis. And if anybody knows who that is, if that sounds familiar, we buried him in this church. I was at that funeral here. And he was a Blood, or affiliated with the Bloods. But I looked up to him. I knew his family. I knew his sister. I knew him. But that's who I looked up to at the time. And so that's what pushed me along that path. So, I got to learning more about gangs. I got to, hanging out with the wrong people. I knew the right people to hang out with so I can get the information that I needed. I was still insulated because I was in Bellevue, so I didn't have to bang every day. But, when you go to Omaha, you got to wear your colors. So that's where the red suit came from. That's where I was known. I was known throughout high school. People told me. I was a Bellevue Blood. I was a dude I was that Blood. I was that gang member. It was just, that's how it was. And I never had a full set or whatever. I just always represented the Bloods. I never had a set. Stupid. But yet I was protected.
Yeah.
I walked all across the country, went to different places wearing all red. So here's the stupid thing about Omaha and their gangs. They're backwards. If y'all didn't know, everything we do here is backwards. If you're a Crip in Omaha, what way do you wear your hat? To the right. No, that's what Crips, they wear it to the right. Where do Crips wear their hats? To the left. Anywhere else, it's to the left. Okay? So our Bloods wore their hats to the left. You go anywhere else, you wear it to the right. It's a folk versus people nation. So I was in a location, I was wearing all red, and I wore my hat to the left. Do you know how many stairs and how much trouble I could have gotten into because I was a Blood?
Wearing your hat to the left.
Stupid. Stupid. So anyways, I started studying gangs in about 5th grade. I think that was the time my dad went to Grace, as you guys all know. His guitar is still not plugged in, but he started going here in 93. He got married here in 93. So y'all like that one? Okay. So I was in and out of Grace. I was here, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
Every time that, he would have visitations or whatever, I'd be in here. I think we usually back then we sat in the middle, and then he eventually moved up over here. But I was in Grace. I was here. But I wasn't paying attention. I was falling asleep. I wasn't connecting with Bishop, right? Like, he was talking, he was yelling, going off about something. And 3rd row, I was like, I'm not listening to this. There's plenty of times I fell asleep at Grace. And it was really weird. I never understood it. But I'd come home and I'd go back to my mom's. I'm like, man, we went to Grace. I didn't like it, man. Bishop's boring. And God was like, oh. I kid y'all not. Every time I said that, God would keep me up all night. All joke. I'm not. He would literally keep me up all night, and I never understood why. I'm like, man, what is going on? I'm like, why can't I sleep? He would always keep me up. He would just wake me up. I'd be up all night. Couldn't sleep. I'm like, man, maybe I'm just sleeping too much in church. Just couldn't sleep. No, stupid. You're over here talking about the man that's going to change your life. And God, to God, it's all the same day. He's like, you stupid, I thought it was boring. I didn't understand. I wasn't connecting. I wasn't paying attention to anybody. But my words were used against me because I'm over here speaking negatively about the man who is going to help change my life. Mm-hmm. Okay. So like I said, I thought I was a Blood or whatever, and so I was cool with some dudes from Jane Street, and but I was really good friends with folks from Tommy Rose, which don't make any sense because Tommy Rose was all Crip.
Yeah.
All Crip.
Yeah.
All Crip. I'm just telling y'all my stupidity, okay? All Crip. I didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't bother me. Whatever. So that's how protected I was. Even in stupid Omaha, I could wear red and Tommy Rose and not get beat up, not get shot at. Go figure. So all that stupidity followed me into my preteen years, my 3rd row years. And I told you guys about this before, but I was introduced to porn at age 11. Okay, that's when things really started to change for me. That bled into like my middle school years. So now I have this edge to me because I feel like I know a little bit about women and sex and all that other stuff. So I thought I was a pimp, a player, whatever you wanted to call it. I don't know what we called it back then. Whatever stupid stuff we were saying, okay? But I literally carried that on, and it followed me everywhere I went. I did some really stupid things in middle school. I've been telling my son about middle school because middle school is where your life starts to change, if you guys have no idea, right? Middle school is where you create the building blocks to the next level, okay? And so I had family members that also contributed to the porn addiction, giving me materials to look at, watch videos, things like that. Because everybody thought it was okay. It was okay to do it, right? It's not a big deal, but it is a very big deal. Because you don't just get porn images out of your head. I still remember those images from when I was 11. And that was a long time ago. Very long time ago. And you can't allow yourself to step into that world, because that world will chew you up and spit you out. It literally grabs you. It twists everything that you do, that you can't even look at the people close to you the same. Relatives, friends, teachers. It takes your mind and it twists it. Just twists it. All the time. All the time. And it rehearses. And you get these images stuck in your head. The movies, right? There's things that just stay in your head. And your mind just replays it and replays it and replays it. So you're just trapped. You're literally trapped within your thoughts because of the seed that porn is planted. Okay? I started mistreating women. Okay? I was very rude. Like I said, I did some stupid stuff. All the while, my wife was in the same city as me. We went to the only two middle schools in Bellevue. She was a year behind me. There's no reason why that we shouldn't have met. However, I firmly believe that if I would have met her at that age, I would have ruined it. Okay? I would have ruined it. I was absolutely awful. I don't get any better in high school. I'm going to get there shortly. Okay? I don't get any better. The story doesn't change for a while. Okay? But we literally crossed paths a few times. I remember seeing her, because she was literally the type of girl that I liked. She was tall, she was skinny, she had braids, she was light-skinned, big lips. I liked that. That was my flavor. I saw her one time. She passed by me when I was at Mission, and I think there was like a basketball game or whatever, and she like passed by. I was like, oh, dang, and then that was it. But I remember her. I remember seeing her. But if I would have met her at that time and in that mindset, it would have been a wrap. Okay? So I get to high school. In between high school, and let me preface this. The stuff that I'm telling you guys, it's not for you to say, well, Bryan made it out, or, if I try it, I might be okay. Yeah. Because we have no idea how much mercy we really have. None. And we don't get to run God's business, so whatever mercy that one person gets doesn't mean that that's what you're going to get.
That's right.
Me, personally, I don't feel like I have mercy at all. Like, my cup, if mercy had a cup with my name on it, it's dry. Like, there's scales on the inside. There's just nothing left, okay? I used it all, and I'm going to get to, you guys are going to hear about that. I lost my virginity at age 13, in between 8th and 9th grade. I was always exposed to older women. I had an older sister, so older women were always around. So I ended up losing my virginity before I even hit high school. Thinking that I was the man. Thinking that this is the right thing to do. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Wrong. So, my freshman year in high school, I wasn't the menacing athlete or whatever. I was just, a kid that was into sports, what have you. I was just a regular kid, I guess. But I had a girlfriend at the time, and continued on with my terrible practices. So I got her pregnant at age 14. I was 14. I should have a 22-year-old. this December, they'd be 22. However, she and her parents got an abortion. And it's not the fact that she got an abortion, it's the fact that I allowed myself to get to that level. I allowed myself to stray that far from God. Because all the while I was still going to church, still sitting in the third row, still listening. But it didn't apply to me. I've gotten away with everything this far. It doesn't apply to me. So she got an abortion. So I dodged a bullet there, right? But just because they get an abortion doesn't mean everything stops. Everything changes. You don't know what that does to a woman. You don't know what that does psychologically to them, to you. Because you're not bulletproof. You're not, you have feelings, you have emotions too. And to put yourself in a precarious situation like that at such a young age taints you. There is no more look of innocence. I look back at some of my pictures in high school and I'm like, wow, I was 23. I look like I was 23. Like, seriously. We joke about it now. I show Lana pictures all the time. I'm like, how old am I? And she's like, oh, you got to be at least 22. No, I was 17.
Wow.
That stuff weighs on you. It ages you.
Yeah.
It hurts you.
Yeah.
When you act like you're an adult at 14, 15, 16, life catches up to you very quickly. Now, mind you, I'm experiencing all this stuff, and most people, they don't experience any of this stuff until they're college sometimes, out of college. I'm doing this at 14. How many of you guys are older than 14? Okay, I did it before your age right now. It's a big deal. But, once again, mercy was poured out for me. So I didn't stop there. You'd think I turned my life around. No, it didn't. I didn't. That was the same year that I finally met Danielle. March 2000 is when everything went down. But I met Danielle in September of 2000. Realistically, I saw her in August of 2000. She was doing something with band or something out there. I just got done with football practice. I had my glasses on, but I was sitting on the hill, and I looked over. I'm like, man, who is that? Man, I got to talk to them. That was awful, y'all. I couldn't see, you squinting. Is that? I saw I think she was wearing a red shirt and white shorts or something like that. I was just squinting, just seeing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find her. She in the band. See, my eyesight was off because I thought she had a trumpet in her hand, but it was really a clarinet. So I missed it. So, but it's all the same year. To me, it felt like felt like a lifetime, right? Felt like a lifetime. But it was just a few months later. So I met Danielle. And so all my stupidity from middle school and my freshman year into my sophomore year already caught up to me. So before I could even introduce and ask her what her name was, she already knew about me.
Wow.
Everyone knew about me.
Yeah.
Everyone. I was only a sophomore, but the whole school knew about me. So she didn't want anything to do with me because of who I was. And I don't blame her. She was innocent. She was like me when I was 6, right?
Wow.
But she was 14, right? But I was 15, yet I had stories like a grown man. Wow. Literally, they would sit on the bus and ask me stories coming from football games. me thinking that it's all macho and bravado, but it's really an art against myself. Okay. So when I first saw her, it was at volleyball. Well, not when I first saw her. When I first got a chance to talk to her, she was at volleyball practice, and so I had to go meet her. And so there was this little slip of paper, a roster on the ground from one of the volleyball games the night before or something. So I picked it up. I'm going through the names, and I'm like, Becky, no. Heidi, no, that ain't it. Danielle Bryan. I'm like, that has to be it. I'm like, that has to be it. I was like, her last name is my first name. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to get, and see, I can read really well, right? So I can pronounce things very well, okay? Right. So I looked at that, I'm like, Danielle? That's Danielle with a J? I'm like, oh, man, I'm about to land it. So she gets done with practice, and I'm with my boy, Kelly Kane, and I roll up to her, and I'm like, hey, is your name Danielle? And she's like, oh, you said it right. I'm like, oh. In my mind, I had to keep it cool. Like, oh yeah, hey, your last name is my first name. I'm Bryan. And I'm like, oh man, I got her now. Wrong. But I did leave an impact on her. Like, okay, he got my name right, because that's a big deal trying to pronounce her name. No one can ever get it right. But I just knew I had a hook, line, and sinker. But no, my reputation went behind me. And she talked to a couple of people, and they're like, you need to leave him alone. Now. Leave him alone. So she listened. But that never stopped me from pursuing her. So I pursued Danielle for what felt like years, but it was only about 18 months? Nah, less than that. About a year. So I pursued her off and on. Wasn't really I could, man, I was that dude, so I couldn't look like I was fiending for someone. You know what I'm saying? So I had to dip in and then okay, and then jog back out, Man, one time, this chick, she gets on my last nerves. So she was wearing this backpack. Was it the backpack or was it just was it the hoodie? I don't remember which one. It was a hoodie. She had this hoodie on and it says Bryan on the back, right? So you know me, I'm vain. I'm like, girl, you got my name on your back, and I touched her. She snatches her arm away. She's like, don't touch me. And I'm like, ugh. She took the cool out of my walk, and I was all upset. I'm like, man, leave that girl alone. She's moody. No, I wasn't. I wasn't going to leave her alone. It was just something about her. So, I don't know. I guess just endless pursuit. She was talking to some other dude, some lame. But anyways, he was the same height as her, man. It looked weird, Just look weird. Whatever. I might have started some fights with him. I might have. Might have been a time or two.
Mr. Blood.
But no one really wanted to fight me because, my reputation, right? But anyways, I might have started a couple fights because I didn't like him because he was with my wife. I always knew that was going to be mine. But anyways, so one time I punched the locker to try to impress her. She thought I was crazy. I dented it, so, I was like, man, that was pretty cool. And come to find out, 20 years later, she's like, that was stupid. I'm like, oh. You don't like anything that I do. But after endless pursuits, finally, I don't even know what clicked in her. She finally broke down and was like, whatever. I gave her my number. I did something. I was like, hey, you call me when you want. She called me the same night. I was like, dork. I was like, you dork. I got you. So that kind of started it. December 2001. We from the very beginning, it was data collection. I was actually doing it right until Listen, I told you I need a lot of mercy, okay? So God took care of me, but we grew our relationship, together. We actually started doing it the right way, but everything else that was in me transformed it, right? You can't. I've always had nature. Absolutely always had nature. Like, even when I was little, I had nature, which I never understood. And you can't talk about it. Who are you going to talk to about it? I always had nature. So it makes me watch my kids to see if they might have nature, because you don't want to chastise that. That's not something that you want to stomp and fizzle out. You want to make sure that they understand it, right?
Right.
And then they use it
Yes.
for their spouse.
Right.
But you don't want to make that thing fizzle out or hold on to it or put a shell on it and not let them be themselves. And a lot of the time, going through church and whatever, Pentecostal, Baptist, whatever, they just want to throw a blanket over and be like, you don't have nature. I don't? No, you don't. God takes that away. No, he doesn't. No. That's how I'm made.
No.
Okay?
Right.
That is absolutely how I'm made. Mm-hmm. But no one helped me. So I helped myself in the wrong ways. Okay? Which, third row, which you guys have to make sure that you don't help yourselves in the wrong way. If you got nature, talk to your parents about it. I talked to my son about it. I talked to Trey. Trey, there's nothing off limits to us. Okay, because that's just how it is. Okay, I'm not. My wife grew up in a strict home. I grew up in a strict home, and I never felt like I could open up and be who I wanted to be or say what I needed to say, right? Because when you speak, that's healing, right? You've got to be able to communicate how you feel about things. In black families, it's just shut up and go sit down somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Right? And so then we wonder why there's so much mental health problems in the black community. Well, because we were told to shut up and sit down somewhere. So just take it, right? And so I teach my children how to just talk to me. We make fun of Trey. We bully Trey in a sense because, he's Trey. He's Trey. But Trey can talk to us about stuff. Because we keep that open airway so that he can tell us what's on his mind. I don't ever want him to try to hide something, to think that he's being sneaky, and he still tries to be sneaky. Don't get me wrong. He tries to be sneaky. He's awful. Like
He's gonna be sneaky.
He's awful. Like, it's so bad. Like, I don't even know why he tries. Like, why would you even try? Like, why would you even try, dude? I was sneaky and I got away with stuff. He's just sneaky and he leaves breadcrumbs right to it. And I'm just like, is this you? And it makes me so mad. I'm just like, you really can't be. Anyways, so Trey's not sneaky, and I think he's learning that, but he still tries. So God bless him for trying, but he's awful at it. Awful. So if y'all see him out there and he's trying to be sneaky, just call him out because he gonna leave breadcrumbs. He's noticeable. Okay, so. He's a mess. But anyways, getting back to my story, we teach our kids how to talk to us, how to be open, how to be honest, because I don't ever want them to feel like they can't come talk to mom and dad. We are there to help, support, to guide, right? That's the purpose of a parent, not to just tell them to sit down, shut up, go away. It's going to go. It's not. It's not. You have things in you that you've got to express. Right. And we can talk about it being, hey, that's the wrong way to think about it, or that's the right way to think about it, or this is how. But if you never allow them the opportunity to express themselves, right, then they'll figure out whatever method that they can conjure up, and then they'll go that way. Because that's what I did.
Wrong way.
That's what I did. Okay. My sister went off to college in about 2001. So my mom kind of like disconnected, right? She to this day, she gets mad at me because I bring it up. She's like, you bring that up all the time. I'm like, nigga, you weren't cooking. So, I'm sorry. But I was like, you weren't cooking. My mom literally like disconnected. So I did what I needed to do. I literally had females bringing food over. They would order or whatever. Thank you. They would order and they would bring food to my house so that I could eat. They would bring food before my football games so I could eat. My mom wasn't paying attention. All I was making was ramen noodles and chicken nuggets. And that's it. Cereal in the morning, ramen noodles, chicken nuggets. I think there was something else. What else was a part of my staple diet back then? Peanut butter and jelly. That's it. Cereal for the morning. Cereals for the morning.
Cereal. Yeah.
Then people were wondering, how'd you get so big so quickly? Well, I was eating crap. I didn't have any healthy foods. So my mom disconnected, and so I used that opportunity. I used that opportunity to continue to move out and do whatever I wanted to do. So I tell my kids all the time that at age, probably about 16, I was pretty much on my own. My mom would say things. I didn't really listen. I was on my own. I was running the streets doing God knows what. I created another gang, I guess you want to call it. We call it a team so it wasn't sound bad. But I always had my entourage around me. I used to have 5, 6 to 10 people walking with me at all times. All times. Either with me, around me. We drove places together. Like,
You was the leader?
Of course.
Wow.
Yes. I was a boss. I created a group. And I think it got to 35, 40 people. I don't know. I was in Indiana at that time, but it got to about 40 people. So, yeah. I thank God for his grace and mercy. How about that?
Yes.
But, so I was, at the same time I was like learning about her, I was still like, I was chaos. I was absolute chaos. But yet I knew, even in that chaos, I knew that I was going to marry her. I was 16 when I got that feeling. I looked at her. We were in weightlifting. We did something. We were like playing with each other, not like, like in a like flirtatious manner, not like anything sexual, just friends having fun. And I looked at her and I'm like, I'm going to marry that girl. And that scared the crap out of me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm that guy, I can't get married, right? But I knew that she was special. And I know that was God giving me revelation. God used to do some weird things to me. He would wake me up in the middle of the night. And one that I'll never forget is he woke me up one time, I think I was about 13, and there was like a dot on my wall. And he goes, you see that dot? I'm going, yeah, I see it. He goes, that's your life. And he goes, go all the way around the room. He goes, that's eternity with me. And I just sat there for like 20 minutes and I couldn't move. And I'm like, I can't gather that. Eternity with you. How does that work? And you think about your life as this grandiose event, right? And yet it's just a dot on a wall. I'll never forget that. I used to ask to see angels. I always wanted to see an angel. So one time, he woke me up in the middle of the night. Once again, God likes to wake me up in the middle of the night. Like, get up. So one time, I was like, oh man, my stomach hurts. Let me just play some video games or whatever. Trey, don't do that. Trey loves playing games. So I get up. And I'm just like playing video games. And like I thought it was my mom that like came to my room to tell me to, shut it off, go back to bed. And instead of like looking up, I just looked down and all I saw was a foot that covered the whole doorway. And I saw the bottom of the gown. And so I went back to the game, got up, turned it off, and went to bed. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I don't need to see any more. This is it for me. And so then we study angels. We hear about their size. And I don't remember the exact measurements, but I remember one time Bishop talked about them. And they are so much bigger than Goliath. And when I saw that foot, most doorways are 42 inches, 42-ish, give or take. And the foot covered the whole door. So you can't imagine. Shaq's foot is 22, and he's 7 feet. This is double his foot size. And it was huge. Craziest thing I've ever seen. Craziest thing I've ever seen. So God used to do that. He used to wake me up. But yet I never got the picture. I couldn't come all the way around for whatever reason. So throughout high school, I was still trying to figure out how to learn more about her, build that relationship, and then keep myself sane and moving in the right direction, because I literally had no guidance, to the point where when I was playing football and getting better and getting stronger and becoming this athlete that was going to be marketable, recruitable, I didn't get the chance because I was at Bellevue East. Bellevue East did not have a very good football program. However, I was trying to do things to stand out. I got invited. Well, one of my good friends at the time was being recruited by Nebraska, and they said, hey, you can bring someone with you to the camp. And I'm like, he's like, hey, can you come with me? We got to go to Nebraska camp together. And I'm like, sure. He's like, it's $150. I'm like, all right, I'll ask my parents. Excuse me. So they get in an argument over $150. $150 for an opportunity for your child to go to college and earn a scholarship and play a sport and do something with their lives. So they argued with it. And at the time, or they argued over it. My mom wasn't making that much money, so I know $75 would be a stretch for her. My dad was making really good money, so $75 wasn't anything to him. Really, $150. If I lost $150 right now, I probably wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. I don't care. But yet, hearing them argue over that, when my dad came to the school to bring me his half, I looked at him and told him, no, you just go ahead and keep it. I don't want that. So now I look back at that situation and I say to myself, how, as a parent, do you first and foremost argue over $150? And then two, how do you tell your 16-year-old or how do you allow your 16 or 17-year-old child what they're going to do or what they're not going to do? I wish Trey would. I wish Sean would. Okay? But that's the kind of parenting that I had to grow up underneath. That was my reality. That I was confident enough to tell a man that was bigger than me that he can keep his money. I don't want it. I'm not going to the camp because y'all can't figure it out. And then he walks away. That's not a dad in my mind. That's not a man in my mind. Because I'm not going to be, if my son, first and foremost, my son's not going to be in that position where he has to bum off somebody else's back to get to a camp. No. But second of all, I'm not going to allow my child to tell me what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, and I'm not going to make an excuse to not better their future. But that's what I grew up in. So there was things that he would say to me, you know, I try to be connected to him. Because every boy wants their dad. Every boy wants their dad. Every little girl wants their dad, right? But every boy, it's a son, it's a father-son thing, right? Yeah. And for years and years and years, I tried so hard to build that relationship with him. And it never worked out. It never worked out. So that's one moment in my life that I sit back and I think to myself, like, okay, if I would have done this differently, or if I would have just had a parent that had a backbone that said, you know what, you're going to take this $150 and you're going to go to that camp and you're going to do well, you're going to get a scholarship, you're going to do something with your life. However, I did not. And so I had to, once again, fend for myself and try to solve problems that I had adults that were supposed to be taking care of me, and they were supposed to be solving those problems with me. But yet, I was doing it myself. So people never understood why I was the way I was. I always had a boss mentality. Even the administration in school knew it. As a sophomore, I picked the fight with the biggest dude in school. I didn't care. What do I care? However, so they created a council. Principal advisory, is that what it was called? Principal advisory committee. You guys hear the stories about me tackling folks in the hallways. That's true. That was absolutely true. I did that. But the principal advisory committee was supposed to be a committee where the students police the school, essentially, right? There were a select few students who were authoritative figures in the school, and they made sure that the school ran appropriately. I was the enforcer. If there was a fight, I stopped the fight. If there was a problem, I solved the problem. Now, we had a school resource officer. He was there full time, but yet it was my responsibility. I would literally pick kids up, whatever. Sometimes it was just by their pants and their shirt and just carry them out, literally. Or I'd bear hug them, separate them, whatever. If there was a fight, or maybe there was a bunch of kids gathering and the administration couldn't get in, they would look at me to say, is it good? Are we okay? And I would let them know. That's the authority that I had at school. So I literally could not get in trouble because the principal, I was like the principal's right-hand man. And everybody hated me for that. Like all the deans, everybody hated me because they couldn't do anything about it. Whatever I did, I would not get in trouble. Could not get in trouble. Like there was this one time these girls got in a fight. I was like in the vicinity. These girls got in a fight with this guy, and I like kind of broke it up. I think I kind of egged it on, but I still broke it up. And they're like, oh well, what do you think your punishment should be? I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. He's like, I know, but if their parents call, I was like, I got you. I'm going to come to school 30 minutes early, and I'll sit in your office. And he's like, yes, that's a good idea. So I showed up to school 10 minutes early, played Game Boy, and then I left. Actually, when I showed up, he goes, what are you doing here? Don't worry about it. But that was my reality. That's what was going on. So when you give a child, how many of you guys are 16, 17, 16? 16. You give that child that kind of authority, what do you think they're going to take with it? And I was built like this, literally. I've been like this since 2001. 2001. I've been 6'2", 240, 50, 60 since 2001. I looked like this in high school. It's probably a little bit bigger in certain areas, okay? But I had all kinds of authority. I literally could do whatever I wanted to do, and I never got in trouble. Never. So much so that the parents got upset. They're like, oh, you can't let that kid do whatever he wants. And he's like, watch me. And her mom complained, other moms complained, but no one ever checked me. So I went throughout high school doing whatever I want, to the point I tackled a kid. You guys remember the Office linebacker commercials? Yeah. Terry Tate. Y'all, does anyone? I remember them. Thank you, Jay. So there's these Office linebacker commercials, and like this guy, if you didn't refill the coffee after you took the last drop, you get tackled, right? You got to do things the right way, right? Like you can't, you empty the Joe, you make some more, So I felt that. I was like, he's right. I'm like, if people are doing the wrong things, I've got to correct that. So once upon a time, there was a kid walking down the hallway, and they had a strict no PDA thing, right? Like, you can't have no PDA. So I watched him, and Bellevue used to say this sunken pit. So I kind of like watched the guy and his girlfriend, and they were walking down the hallway holding hands. Well, you can't have PDA in my hallways, okay? So I ran and I clotheslined him. I'm not joking. Could you imagine, you were in schools, could you imagine a rogue junior and senior just doing whatever he wanted? No. But that was me. That was what I lived. So I tackled him right in front of the assistant principal. And you know what he said? You ain't going to help him up? I was like, oh man, I'm about to get in trouble. You ain't going to help him up? Oh yeah, I'll get him up. I just walked away. That's literally what my life was like in high school. So how are you going to tame him? How are you going to wrangle him? Okay? It was ridiculous. My stupid stuff I used to do was ridiculous. So it didn't stop there. It spilled over into college. I was wild, I was out of control, and I was too big to correct. No one wanted to correct me. Jay was protected, except for hate. That's the only thing she wasn't protected from was hate. But Jay was protected to the point where I left, everybody was like, man, we might be able to breathe now. And she's like, he'll be back. But that was my high school career. So when I got to college, I had like that same mentality. I was trying to revamp myself by going to Valpo. I chose Valpo. Number one, they recruited me. It was Division I. I was lied to. Okay? I was lied to. Jackson, this could be a future for you. Coach told me, hey, I'm going to get a scholarship for you. It was $30,000 a year to go there. I was like, I can't afford that. He's like, okay, we'll get you taken care of. You know, I ended up getting student loans and grants, right? And so I get there, and I'm like, okay, this is excellent. I'll be doing track and field, right? I'm in Indiana. I'm near Chicago. My freshman year, I was like, I can figure all this out. And I was lied to. There was never going to be a scholarship. There was never going to be money for school. There was never going to be anything like that. So I went through my whole freshman year still trying to figure out who I was, what I meant to the world. Danielle and I were still talking. We were pretty committed. But so I came home for Christmas break my freshman year. And I don't know. I mean, we're athletes. You know, we were probably wearing scrubs or whatever. And so we were over at my dad's house. And I hate saying this. And he pulls me over to the side and he goes, hey, how long are you going to be with Jay? He goes, she's kind of homely. Don't you want to find someone else? So once again, being influenced by him, that swirled around in my head. So now I'm like, I got to try to please my dad and make sure that, you know, I find somebody that fits the bill. He's living vicariously through me, saying stupid stuff, filling my head with hoop dreams, telling me that he's going to do this for me, telling me that he's going to do that for me. And so now I'm in college even more confused. So my sophomore year is a disaster, absolute disaster. I leave Jay, tell her I don't even want to talk to you no more. Literally, she's on the phone crying. I'm pulling the phone away from my ear, trying not to cry as I'm separating myself from her, as I'm on this stupid pursuit to find the woman that my dad thinks I should be with. So I go into a deep state of depression, really deep state of depression, where I'm sitting outside the library on campus, and I just sit there and I'm like, why do I even need God? I don't need anybody. I'm just staring. I don't need anybody. I don't need you, God. All the while, I'm going to Chicago. I'm spending pretty much the weekends there. I spend all my money from my semester, my sophomore year in the first semester. Done. Zero. I think it's October. I'm broke. I'm broke. I don't have any money left. Any money left. And so my dad's giving me money here and there, whatever, but I'm literally I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I have no plan, nothing. I'm in a deep state of depression. It's January of 2005. I'm standing outside. It's raining. I don't even know why it's raining in January, especially up there. It snows, but it's raining. And I just stood out there for an hour. Just lost. And I'm like trying to rehearse what's going on in my life. I can't stand anybody that's there. I'm beefing with my mom, trying to be cool with my dad, not really talking to Danielle. I've got people around me at Valpo, but they're all bad influences. I'm wilding out. I'm in neighborhoods I shouldn't be in. I'm in and out of the city, driving a car with Nebraska plates, in and out of Chicago. Not the good parts. I'm in East Chicago. I'm in West Side. Didn't really go to the South Side that much. I was really Maywood, to the point that the kid I was taking to Maywood says, I don't know why you were doing what you were doing. He's from Maywood. That's a problem. And I'm on the west side of Chicago like I know what I'm doing. Had no clue. So eventually, track season comes around. I stop going to Chicago as much. I leave the people that I was dealing with or whatever, and I come back and I finish up the semester. I pretty much flunk out. I think my GPA was like a 1.5, something like that. Never in class anyways. So I got to make a decision. I pack up everything and I put it all in the back of my Camry, and I'm like, I'm just going to go home. And I wasn't going to my mom's house. I'm just going straight to my dad's. And I drove home. I just left, never to come back to Valpo ever again. I was lost. So I had no plan. I was just going to come back to Nebraska. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I met back up with Danielle. Pretty much begged her to give me a second chance because I'm an idiot. I begged her, literally. And it took some convincing, but we finally reconnected and started to rebuild our relationship in 2005. And then that was the same year that Jason died. So I love Jason. Jason Brown was my hero. He was my hero. Even the whole time he went through his brain tumor, his surgeries, he would stand over here and he would just clap. He would stand up. He would sing the songs. And I looked at him. I remember sitting in here one day, and I was just like, man, if he can do that, I need to be the same way. Right. I've got to be the same way. Mm-hmm. So November of 2005, he was on his deathbed. And that was really, really tough. They had the funeral in, I think, early December. And I just remember just crying. Just crying. And I was talking to Danielle. She was still in South Dakota. I was just crying, bawling. And I made a promise to God that I would pick up the mantle where he left off. Wow. And I wanted to be who he was and how good he was for the family. And I don't know. I don't know if his if his spirit is just enduring and hanging around me, but that's something that's always been hanging over my head and keeps me focused, is because of who he was and how he was. He was such a great human being.
Yes, he was.
And really, he was an odd against any of us in the Bell family, that can't praise God through whatever storms that we went through, whatever we went through, whatever we dealt with. He was an odd against us, and he kept, mentally, whatever the brain tumor, whatever he was saying was not him. We know that. We know who he truly was,
right,
and what he meant to this family, and what he meant to God.
yes,
And so that was such an inspiring thing. That was the moment where things started to change for Bryan. Bryan went from being reckless, invincible is what I would call it. I felt like I was invincible. I wasn't afraid of guns, had guns pulled on me. I wasn't afraid of anything. Nothing. I don't even think I was afraid of death. I would do some crazy stuff. I just felt invincible. Invincible. Nothing bothered me. But at that moment, I realized that I've got to do something different. and God has been supporting me in my elevation for my family, because he has honored my promise. And that's why I've been able to move forward the way that I have been, is because I made that promise, and I'm sticking to it. I made that vow to God. So I'm going to skip through some of this other stuff. So we came to Grace in 2006. We came to Grace. Mind you, I've been in and out of Grace my whole life, in and out of Grace. And so the way it worked out was, I was at Trinity Hope Foursquare Gospel with this pastor. And so I told him, I was like, hey, I really want to get married. This is the girl I want to marry, okay? And he goes through this long speech, and at the very end, he says, well, I guess, Bryan, it's better to marry than to burn. I got to go. That was the last time I spoke to him until years after we got married. So Danielle goes to her pastor, or whatever is at the chapel. I don't know what they got going on over there. So she goes to him, and she's like, hey, can you put us through some classes? We want to get married. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll get with you in, what did he say? A year. I'll get with you guys in a year. Marriage counseling, so we can get prepared to get married. And I said, I'll see you later. And so we were like looking at each other. We're like, dude, we're trying to do things the right way, man. Why isn't anyone helping us? Right. And I was like, I think I got one more plan. I got one more person. She's like, who? I was like, his name's Bishop Barlow. He's different. He's different. But we got to go ask. We got to go talk to him. And so we came here, and we sat through the service, and we were like, can we talk to you? And he's like, yeah. And so he's looking at me. He's like, you Bryan? So, yeah. I was like, yeah. He's like, okay. So we talking. I'm like, gave him the whole spiel of what we're trying to do. Like, we're trying to get married. He's like, you want to be a man of God? I'm like, yeah, sounds good. He's like, okay, all right. And so, he encouraged us. He got us ready. And then he decided to take a stand against my family, her family. Mm-hmm. And man, and for us, it was valiant, because she was getting letters from her grandmother, because Danielle wanted to do the right thing. She was miserable in South Dakota. She was done playing basketball. She just was done. She didn't want to do it anymore. She was ready to walk away from it all. Her mom disowned her took her car away from her, all this other stuff, took her phone. I mean, everything, like literally just disowned her. And so now we finally have somebody backing us. And we're like, okay, we might be able to do this now. We might be able to get this done. And Bishop he's been there for us since. He got us, he pushed us along. We came in, golly, it was about a month, wasn't it? A little over a month. Yeah, it was a little over a month. Man, next thing you know, we were married. we were married. We had our traditional grace wedding.
Yeah.
Had our traditional grace wedding, and then we had the other one. But that was important because that set up the next chapter, which was college in Nebraska. And I'm going to briefly touch on this, guys, and I'm going to wrap this all up. Because we got married, we moved to Lincoln, and we didn't tithe. Not at all. And I knew better. But I had someone in the back of my mind that told me one time, well, if you don't have enough faith to tithe, then, you just don't tithe. And I was okay, well, shit, I'm broke. Wrong. It was the same person, just to give you guys a hint. It's the same person that told me it was better to marry than to burn.
Wow.
So I took that, and I was like, I'll run with it. I'll just hold on to all the money because we're broke college kids. We need every penny, right?
Right.
But we struggled. It was brutal. Jay worked 2 jobs. When we got to Lincoln, I went to school. She started school the next year. We both were working on and off. I was getting track money, and they were, I don't know. We were getting food from the youth center. I mean, like we were just struggling. I mean, like we were struggling every step of the way. We're trying to move forward. We're like, man, we're trying to do things God's way, but man, I had the weight of not giving sitting on my shoulders, and I didn't understand. I did, but I didn't. I made promises to God, and I broke them when I was there. I broke them. I told God, I said, listen, hey, if I don't drink, you'll make me the best athlete, get me to the NCAAs. I drank.
Wow.
I drank. And it's funny because he pushed me to, I was able to still get to a certain level. I was ranked 31st in the nation my senior year.
Wow.
31st in the nation. But yet, I never made it to NCAAs. I never made it to NCAAs, indoors nor outdoors. Ranked 31st in the nation. I fouled very big throws that would have gotten me to wherever I needed to go. But I broke my vow. Mm-hmm. And that's the point. Doesn't matter what I was ranked, what I did, I broke my vow. Therefore, God didn't have to keep his end of the bargain. Because he showed me I was very capable of doing it. But because I can't keep my word, he ain't going to keep his end. Okay? We had a very strained relationship. We're basically just hanging on for dear life. We got pregnant with Trey my senior year as I was graduating, decided to move back, and that's when things changed for us. I made a vow to God that, because I was broke. We were broke. Like, I graduated in the worst time ever. May of 2009, in the middle of the Great Recession. And I had an internship with State Farm, okay, which is a guaranteed job. I was with them for 2 years. It's a guaranteed job. They went on a hiring freeze. They had nothing available in the nation. There were 2 jobs in the nation. I should have had a job right out the gate. Never happened. The job that I had lined up pulled out the Monday after graduation. The Monday after graduation. Yeah. So I was hurting, but it was my own fault. Okay. So we get back here. I just went to Lincoln. I drove by the park where we walked around. So when you guys get married, you guys need to take a walk with your spouse. Man, you will find that revelation comes when you sit and you walk with your spouse and you talk and you discuss things, and you'll feel very confident after you're done. And to this day, I almost get teary-eyed driving by that park because I remember that conversation that we made together. She was pregnant with Trey, and we had to figure out what we were going to do. And we made our strategy, we made our game plan to move back to Omaha and to try to restart our whole lives. We get back here. I'm literally tithing off of my unemployment checks. No joke. Wow. I was getting like $333 every 2 weeks, I think. And I was tithing $33, whatever. I mean, I was like, God, if you get me out of this situation, I don't care what comes first. I said, you will always get paid. And slowly things changed for us because I kept my word. Okay, I started at ConAgra. I only made $33,000 a year. I'm trying to support 3 people. She wanted to go back to school. 33 grand. I met Dre there. Dre and I met at ConAgra. Wow. I made $33,000. Then I got promotion, and I was making like $41, and I'm like, man, we did it, dude. We were so excited. We were so excited. I was like, 41, dude. Awful. If I only knew. If I only knew. So it kind of trickled up a little bit. Then I left for Walmart. I started at Walmart. I made $41,000 my first year. Within 4.5 years, it went to $106,000 salary. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Not including bonus. Okay, God definitely blessed. Okay, because I stuck to my vow. I paid my tithes. I wasn't going to miss out on that. Real estate. God has blessed me immensely in real estate. Okay.
Yes.
I made more last year than my highest salary ever at Walmart. And that's because I kept to my principles.
Yes.
I kept my vow.
Yes.
I serve. There's a whole lot more that I'm not going to bore you guys with, but I came here to tell the third row today that even in Luke chapter 5, we look at God and we say, God, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Nevertheless, as long as I do this,
right, then
he moves. And then you go to to verse 8, and he says, all right, pull this up. Sorry, I have a listing that went live today, so I got text messages all over the place. I can't even get to my thing now. Shelly Beans is going to try to get it tomorrow, so. Verse 8.
When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord."
All right. So when we get the blessing, we think back to ourselves, man, God, you can't, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be blessed. I don't deserve any of your recompense. Okay? What did I do to deserve this? And it's not in your works. It's your obedience. And so when I was disobedient, my life was really, really rough. Really, really rough. And I added to it. I created some of that turmoil, that turbulence. But when I became obedient, I got to reap the benefits that we tithed more than I made at ConAgra.
Right.
It's hard to fathom. We gave more than I made at ConAgra.
Go ahead.
And that's obedience.
Go ahead.
And so I say all that to say But why? Why did I get that? I couldn't have been that obedient. Then I go to Lamentations chapter 3. I'll read it because I got it. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not.
Yes.
They are new every morning.
Yes.
Great is thy faithfulness.
Yes. Yes.
That is a part of my daily ritual,
Yes.
that I read that,
Right.
because I am a recipient of God's unfailing mercies. You guys heard the stories. I should be dead. I should be in jail. I didn't tell you about the drugs. Okay? I was a drug dealer too. Yes. Okay? I should be dead. We were trying to run drugs from New York to Valpo.
Wow.
Long story. And we were about to create a drug trade in Bellevue that was unlike any other. But God. In the nick of time.
Yes, Lord.
Lamentations 3:22 and 23 is what I rehearse every morning, because without that mercy, I would not be here. And there's no other way to say it. And I tell you guys these things so that you understand that you don't get to choose how full your mercy cup is.
That's right.
And it is
correct.
very, very, very dangerous to play with God's mercy. I don't know why I'm here, but maybe I'm here just to warn you. But understand that when your time is up, there's a reason why we call it Last Stop Apostolic, because there's a lot of people that left here willingly that came back unwillingly.
Yeah. He's rolling.
So it's all about obedience. It's the same thing. This word, everything ties in.
Yeah, it does.
It's about being obedient. And then when you are obedient, God has the platform to bless you, because you follow his instructions,
Yes.
and you delight yourself in him.
Yes, beautiful.
Amen. I know it was boring, but
No.
it was necessary.